You know, JR, I racked my brains trying to think of a single flaw in Triple H, and I couldn't come up with anything. It's like he says, he really is the only diamond in this business.
I bet I can help you out there, King. He's arrogant. He's selfish and self-centered. He'll sacrifice anyone and anything to get what he wants. He's completely untrustworthy.
Whoa. Hold on there, JR. I know you and the game have some personal history with each other, but that's no excuse to try to diminish his accomplishments.
I'd never try to do that. There's no doubt that Triple H has reached a level in this business that few others have, if anyone at all. But that doesn't excuse his actions. What good is it to be the best superstar on the roster if you're the worst human being on the face of the earth?
That's just your perspective, JR. But history's written by the winners. I'd change my tune if I were you, unless, of course, you want to go down in the books as being stupid enough to talk trash about Triple H.
I don't even know if you can use the word monster to describe Kane anymore. He's become so twisted and so evil that it almost sounds like a compliment.
Kane's never going to be up for the Humanitarian of the Year award, JR, but I think that's exactly what makes him such a great superstar. He'll stop at nothing to get what he wants, and that makes for some great competition.
That might be true, King, but Kane also takes a perverse pleasure in inflicting as much pain as possible on anyone who steps in the ring with him. How can having a superstar who tries to end the careers of his opponents be anything but bad for the business?
Simple, JR. Kane is natural selection in action. He weeds out the weaklings on the roster so that only the strongest superstars remain on Raw.
Boy, you'll go to any lengths to defend your position, no matter how wrong you are. I think anyone who took a look at Kane would realize he's a menace who shouldn't be allowed out in public, much less a WWE ring.
I'm so happy that we have a superstar like Edge on the Raw roster. Someone who sets goals for himself and doesn't let anything stop him from reaching them. He's a great role model for young fans.
Oh, he's a terrific role model, all right. Edge is a real humanitarian, a guy who would just as soon sell you out as look at you.
What are you talking about, JR? That's just a nasty rumor spread by people who wanted to be in Edge's league but couldn't keep up with him.
Come on, King. You've watched Edge as much as I have, and you've seen the things he's pulled. Talk about someone whose heart is as cold as the other side of the pillow.
Well, I'm sorry you've decided to sympathize with the losers, JR. Me, I'm sticking with a winner. I'm sticking with Edge.
There's absolutely no question in my mind that Ric Flair is one of the true legends of this business. I just think it's a shame that many of his accomplishments are based on cheating, deception, and underhanded tactics.
Haven't you ever heard the expression, the ends justify the means, JR? Ric Flair's held a world championship more times than any other superstar ever. You're telling me that that's not worth a little dirty dealing?
It's more like a little dirty dealing, King. There's a reason Flair's called the dirtiest player in the game.
Oh, come on, JR. That's just an expression. The only people who take that seriously are the ones who don't want to give the Nature Boy the credit he's earned.
I've had many opportunities to see Carlito up close and in person, and I have to tell you, I'm impressed with what this kid brings to the table.
What's that exactly? A bunch of half-chewed apples? What's so cool about that?
I tell you what's cool, King, and that's the charisma and athletic ability of this second-generation superstar.
Sorry, JR, but I just don't see it. Maybe they'll get it right with the third generation.
What a disgusting, despicable human being is Snitsky. I don't even know if you could call him a human being. He seems more like a monster to me.
Why do you do that, JR? Every time you don't like someone, you call him a monster. Just because Snitsky's a big, strong guy doesn't mean you have to call him names.
I call him a monster because he's depraved, King. He has no human feeling in him whatsoever, at least as far as I can tell.
Kurt Angle's too competitive for his own good. He doesn't know when he's met his match. He'd rather risk a serious injury than quit.
Well, maybe that's because Angle has never truly met his match, King. I've never seen a superstar triumph over adversity the way Kurt Angle has.
Well, Angle's gotten lucky more times than I can count. I'll give him that. But sooner or later, his luck's going to run out. And it might be tonight.
I know that Kurt Angle has rubbed some fans and fellow superstars the wrong way in the past. But when it comes right down to it, you can't deny the fact that he's earned the right to take a little pride in his accomplishments.
A little pride? JR, I'd say you sounded like Kurt Angle's biggest fan, if I wasn't sure that Angle himself is already president of his own fan club.
Hey, I won't deny that Angle thinks very highly of himself, but he's earned that right. I might be a little less forgiving if he didn't live up to his own hype. But the bottom line is, when Angle sets his mind to something, very few superstars can stand in his way.
JBL might be my favorite superstar on the SmackDown roster. I could never get enough of this guy.
I could. As a matter of fact, I think I've had more than enough of John Bradshaw Layfield.
There's that jealousy again, JR. You're lucky you're on Raw, because if you were on SmackDown, I'm sure JBL would have used all of that wealth and influence he has to get you fired by now.
JBL's a financial wizard and a huge success in business. But what he strikes me as the kind of man who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing.
What are you talking about, JR? JBL's a genius when it comes to money.
I know that, King, but I think he's completely ignorant when it comes to things that you can't put a price on. The things like honor, respect, and sportsmanship.
I think Triple H might be the greatest superstar of his generation. I think that in the future, superstars are going to talk about Triple H the way superstars from Triple H's generation talk about Ric Flair.
The idea that Triple H might potentially become a role model to the next generation turns my stomach, King. I hope to hell you're wrong.
Hope all you want, JR, but you know I'm right. Triple H has accomplished too much in his career to be called anything but a legend.
When I look at Triple H, all I see is lost opportunities. He's so talented and so intelligent that he could have made such a positive impact on the business. Instead, he decided that he'd rather win at all costs without any sense of honor or decency.
Listen to you, JR. Honor, decency. You sound like you're 100 years old. Triple H realized early on that winning is the only thing that matters. That's why he's the cerebral assassin.
I am old-fashioned, King, and damn proud of it. And if Triple H is the future of this business, I'm perfectly happy to be stuck in the past. Thank you very much.
I'll admit it. It's a little scary to watch up close, but I love watching Kane go to work. He's practically unstoppable.
He's certainly not stopped by conscience, that's for sure. Kane will crush anyone and anything that stands between him and his objective.
You say that like it's a bad thing, JR. I think it's great. No one forces a superstar to get into the ring against Kane. And if they aren't up to the challenge, they're probably not cut out for the WWE.
The very sight of Kane makes my blood run cold. What an inhuman monster he is.
You say monster like it's a bad thing, JR. But everyone loves a monster, whether they want to admit it or not. Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman never go out of style.
Well, there's a big difference between seeing a monster in a movie and knowing that a real-life monster like Kane is walking the earth, King.
I don't understand how these fans can boo Edge, JR. They've got no respect for everything he's done for them.
Oh, you're full of it, King. These fans don't give a damn about Edge because they know that Edge doesn't give a damn about them either.
How can you say that, JR? Edge is one of the most exciting and dynamic superstars on the Raw roster. And I hope you don't drive him to SmackDown with the way you slander him.
It doesn't appear that Edge is getting much love from this crowd tonight, and who can blame them? They're certainly not getting much from Edge.
That's not true, JR. I'm sure this arena is just full of Edge heads tonight. You might not hear them cheering, but that's probably because they're in awe of the fact that they're watching their favorite superstar.
Or maybe it's because the Edge heads turned on Edge right about the same time he turned on them, King. I think they do a pretty good job of making themselves heard, but with those boos instead of cheers now.
Ric Flair's a 16-time world champion, JR. 16 times! There's not a WWE superstar in history who's done that.
Yeah, and if a single one of those title reigns didn't start with the dirtiest player in the game taking some liberties with the rules, I'll eat my damn hat.
You've got to love Ric Flair. The Nature Boy doesn't let anything stand in his way.
Yeah, including the rules. I tell you, if Flair wasn't a WWE superstar, he'd make a great lawyer or politician.
I don't understand why you like Carlito so much, JR. What, did he lie to you and tell you that you were cool or something?
I've never been accused of being cool by Carlito or anyone else, King. Quite frankly, I'm not sure I'd know cool if it bit me on my Oklahoma Sooner backside.
I know Snitsky's not the most popular guy on the roster, But you've got to admit that watching a one-man wrecking crew in action is pretty exciting, JR.
I don't think that exciting is the word for it, King. It's downright scary to watch Snitsky go to work. Someday, he's going to seriously hurt someone, whether he means to or not.
Chavo's always talking about living up to his family traditions, JR. But if I were his family, I'd make sure that his invitation to the family reunion got lost in the mail.
If you can't appreciate Chavo's ability, that's your own problem, King. Personally, I think the Guerreros have every right to take pride in the way he represents their legendary family.
Everyone says they can't take their eyes off Chavo, JR, and neither can I. It's a good way to wind up having something stolen.
I beg to differ, King. I think Chavo's lying, cheating, and stealing days are long behind him. He's upholding a different sort of family tradition these days.
I feel like we shouldn't even be talking during this match, JR. We should just silently admire the masterpiece, like we were looking at a sculpture in a museum or something.
If you want to zip your lips for a few minutes, King, I won't complain. But don't expect me to show Chris Masters any more respect than he's shown to the WWE superstars and fans. Well, we haven't seen much of Ken Kennedy on Raw, King, and as far as I'm concerned, it can stay that way.
Oh, come on, JR. How can you not be impressed by someone with his skill and charisma?
I'll grant that he's got some athletic ability, but as far as charisma goes, his attitude leaves a lot to be desired.
I think your attitude leaves a lot to be desired. If you can't appreciate a superstar the caliber of Mr. Kennedy, JR, boy, I tell you, JR, this Ken Kennedy is the total package. I wish we could get him to jump to Raw.
No, thank you, King. I don't think I'd be capable of putting up with his arrogant attitude every week.
Okay, so we'll trade you for him. Sounds like a fair deal to me.
Ken Kennedy's mouth seems to land him in hot water with alarming regularity.
Look who's talking, JR. How many times have you been fired now? 7, 8?
And every time I come back and sit next to you, King, I wonder why I bothered to return.
Boy, Ken Kennedy's fans are getting a real treat here tonight, JR.
Yeah, and I don't think either one of them could be any happier. I'd be a lot more impressed by Ken Kennedy if I didn't think he was such a pompous ass.
Hey, when you're as great as Mr. Kennedy, it's hard to be humble, JR.
Johnny Nitro has certainly proven himself as a tag team competitor on SmackDown, and he's distinguished himself as a singles competitor as well.
Hold on a second, JR. Every time I've heard you mention Nitro in the past, you've complained about him. You can't have it both ways.
I've complained about Nitro's attitude, that's true. But that's no reflection on his athletic ability, which is considerable in my view.
I don't know, JR. I think you're trying to have it both ways here. Me, I like everything about Nitro. I wish he was a Raw superstar. I think the thing that impresses me most about Nitro is his confidence. Wouldn't you say so, JR?
Well, you could call it confidence, but I call it cockiness. And as far as I'm concerned, his daddy should have taken him to the woodshed once or twice more than he did.
That's your answer to everything, JR. Take him to the woodshed. What kind of advice is that?
I don't think Johnny Nitro's winning over any fans here tonight.
Nitro's not worried about impressing the fans, JR. He doesn't need to try. Have you ever seen him outside the ring without a beautiful woman on his arm?
Well, I'm glad that Nitro's so successful with the ladies. But last I knew, that wasn't the way to rise through the ranks of the WWE. I'll do that again.
Boy, it must burn you up to see a cocky young superstar like Nitro do so well here in the WWE, JR.
I think everyone should get what they deserve, King. Nitro deserves to be rewarded for his athletic ability. But if he keeps walking around like he's God's gift to sports entertainment, I think he deserves to be proven wrong. I'll tell you what, it wouldn't hurt my feelings one bit to see Nitro taking down a peg or three here tonight.
What have you got against Nitro, JR? He's young, he's talented, he's good looking? Oh, wait, I think I just answered my own question.
We don't see a lot of Joey Mercury here on Raw, King, and I would say that's a shame if it wasn't for that attitude of his.
Attitude? What are you talking about, JR?
You know exactly what I'm talking about, King. That self-absorbed, spoil-rotten attitude that he and his partner, Johnny Nitro, seem to share.
Well, if you had the kind of skill and potential that Mercury has, I bet you'd be a little stuck on yourself, too. Boy, what I wouldn't give to be Joey Mercury, JR. Talk about a guy who's got it all.
Yeah, and if you don't believe it, just ask him. I don't think I've ever seen an ego that big on a kid his size.
There's nothing wrong with taking pride in your accomplishments, JR. And let's face it, Mercury's not short on accomplishments.
I think it's a damn shame about Mercury. The kid's got all the talent in the world, and that attitude of his makes it impossible to appreciate it.
Oh, come on, JR. You're supposed to be the voice of objectivity out here.
I am being objective. I'm calling it like I see it. And the way I see it, Mercury would be twice the superstar he is if he checked his ego at the door.
We don't get to see Joey Mercury that often, JR, and that's too bad. He's probably one of SmackDown's biggest assets.
If you remove the E-T from that last word, King, I'd be inclined to agree with you. I hope that referee's keeping a very close eye on Mercury, because if he runs true to form, it's only a matter of time before he tries to take some liberties with the rules.
I'd be careful about that if I were you, JR. That's slander. And I'm sure Mercury's got all sorts of high-priced Hollywood lawyers on his cell phone.
I swear, every time I see Mark Henry, he just looks bigger and bigger. He's the world's biggest longhorn.
You're not kidding, JR. If I was his opponent, I wouldn't care if I won or not. Just surviving the match would be enough for me.
Well, as intimidating as the world's strongest man might be, I don't think that's an attitude you'll find in a WWE locker room, King.
Well, if that's true, then some of these superstars need to learn the difference between bravery and stupidity. As big and strong and mean as Mark Henry is, I don't see this match going on much longer.
I understand the sentiment, King. Henry's not known as a man who works by the hour. But unless I missed a bell ring somewhere, this match isn't over yet.
Believe me, JR, that's just a technicality. I just hope everyone's able to walk away from the match once it's over.
They call Mark Henry the world's strongest man. But strength isn't everything, and it's not always enough to win a match.
Come on, JR. Don't give these fans false hope. When you're as strong as Mark Henry, there's not much that can stop you.
I'm not denying that, King, but strength is one of the many tools of a successful superstar. Speed, agility, and ring presence can give strength a run for its money if they're used properly.
Who in their right mind gets into the ring against someone like the world's strongest man, JR?
There aren't many superstars who can hang with Mark Henry, that's for sure. But we might be looking at one tonight. Mark Henry is such a dangerous competitor. I hope to God no one gets seriously hurt here tonight.
Well, I don't want that either, JR. But if you're crazy enough to get in the ring with the world's strongest man, you get what you deserve.
This referee had better keep a sharp eye on Super Crazy, because he's not above bending the rules when it suits him.
I don't know Super Crazy all that well, JR, but maybe he just doesn't understand the rules. How good is his English?
There's nothing wrong with Super Crazy's English, I guarantee you that, King. He might suffer from selective hearing, though.
Well, there you go. He's got a medical condition. You aren't going to start picking on the disabled now, are you, JR? Super Crazy has all those high-flying moves. But what good will those do if your opponent grounds you and you can't fight him off?
Super Crazy's a former ECW television champion, King. I think his toughness credentials are in order.
ECW? Oh, right. Extremely crappy wrestling. Well, maybe he was a big deal on the bingo hall circuit, but this is the WWE.
That referee had better have eyes in the back of his head, because we've seen Super Crazy play fast and loose with the rules on SmackDown.
And I know you frown on that kind of thing, JR, but I think it's cool. And when Super Crazy does it, it's Mexicool.
I don't see what's so cool about it, King. Super Crazy is a skilled enough competitor that he doesn't need to resort to those kinds of dirty tricks.
I don't think I've ever seen a superstar live up to his name the way Super Crazy does. I can't believe some of the moves I've seen him perform.
You'd have to be one crazy hombre to do something like that. Like take a moonsault from a balcony, King, but we've seen him do it before, and we might see something of that kind here tonight. In his time on SmackDown, Super Crazy certainly has made an impact on the cruiserweight division.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure he belongs there, JR. Somebody better get him on a scale, because I think he might have had one too many churros.
I'll tell you what. It seems like ever since young Gregory Helms left Raw, his attitude has just gotten worse and worse.
Yeah, but his career has taken off, JR. The first night he went to SmackDown, he won the Cruiserweight title.
Hey, Helms is a very talented young man. You can't take that away from him. I just wish he had the kind of attitude that allowed me to feel good about his success.
Well, that sounds like your problem, JR, not his. Me, I like his new attitude. I'm glad he finally got serious about his WWE career. You know, despite the fact that he spent a lot of his career on SmackDown and in WCW, Gregory Helms has actually turned out okay.
Okay? How can you say that, King? He's turned his back on his fans, and he doesn't care about anyone but himself.
And he's held about half a dozen different titles over his career, JR. Say what you will about his attitude, but you can't argue with success.
Gregory Helms' attitude makes me sick. After all the support he's gotten from the fans over his career, to turn his back on him now just turns my stomach.
You're always bad-mouthing Gregory Helms, JR. How about you say something nice about him for once?
All right. How about the fact that he's a multiple-time tag team and cruiserweight champion, a former European and hardcore champion, and one of the biggest jackasses to set foot in a WWE ring?
I was sorry to see Gregory Helms leave Raw, but there's no denying that it was the right career move for him. You've seen the way he's completely dominated SmackDown's cruiserweight division, JR.
He certainly has, but quite frankly, I'm perfectly fine with him being on the SmackDown roster. I prefer superstars who appreciate what they've got, not ones that blame others for what they don't have. I'm not a fan of Gregory Helms' attitude these days, but I have to admit that he's been a dominant superstar in SmackDown's cruiserweight division.
Of course he has, JR. He was a Raw superstar for a long time. He was used to a much higher standard of competition when he jumped to SmackDown.
Boy, I tell you, this Psychosis is one loco hombre, that's for sure.
Well, with a name like that, what did you expect, JR?
To tell you the truth, King, I never know what to expect from Psychosis. As far as I can tell, he's completely unpredictable.
And that's what makes him so dangerous, JR. You never know what he's going to come up with next. I love watching Psychosis in action, JR. He's absolutely right. He's not just Mexican, he's Mexicool.
I don't know how cool it is for him to be taking some of the liberties he takes with the rules, but that's just my opinion.
JR, nobody wants to hear you complain about that kind of thing while you've got someone as exciting as Psychosis in a match.
Psychosis is one superstar you don't want to take your eyes off of if you can help it.
I know what you mean, JR. He's got to be one of the most exciting superstars on the SmackDown roster.
I was actually referring to his propensity to play fast and loose with the rules, King, but I can't disagree with you either.
Psychosis was a big deal in ECW, JR. And despite that, I still think he's one of the most exciting superstars on SmackDown.
I think there might be more than a few fans in this arena who would take exception to your comments on ECW, King. Man, this Psychosis is quicker than a hiccup. You've got to have eyes in the back of your head if you want to go toe-to-toe with this man.
You sure do, JR. For a SmackDown superstar, he's not half bad.
It's an unusual treat to see Melina in active competition. She's been known as the brains behind the tag team of Nitro and Mercury.
Now that's a little disrespectful to Nitro and Mercury, isn't it, JR? Are you saying they'd be lost without her?
Look, all I'm saying is that if brains were dynamite, I don't think Nitro and Mercury would have enough to blow their noses.
Well, brains are not. They're smart enough to keep Melina by their side, so they can't be all that dumb. Boy, Melina's one of those divas you just can't take your eyes off of, JR.
You certainly can't, especially if you're the referee. You know it's only a matter of time before this Jezebel tries to take advantage in this matchup.
You say that like it's a bad thing, JR. I wouldn't mind if she tried to take advantage of me.
Melina's such an amazing young talent. What a great addition she is to the women's title picture here on Raw.
I can't imagine there are many things you could add Melina to that wouldn't make them better, JR. I can think of one or two right off the top of my head.
Yeah, and if I know you, King, you better keep them to yourself. This is a family program, you know.
I know a woman like Melina's nothing but trouble, JR. But I think she might just be the trouble I've been looking for.
You and half the fans in this arena, King. Melina certainly has no shortage of admirers, that's for sure. You've got to be in seventh heaven, Kingfish. It's not often we get to see Melina in action like this.
You know it, JR. I could never get enough of Melina, but I'd sure like to try.
Hey, we've seen a lot of bad dudes in our time on Raw, King, but Vito might be one of the baddest I've ever seen.
Boy, you're not kidding, JR. Seeing Vito in action makes me glad that he's a SmackDown superstar.
And nothing against our Raw roster, King, but I hope they came prepared for a fight, because that seems to be exactly what Vito has in mind.
That's the only thing Vito ever has on his mind, JR. He graduated with honors from the School of Hard Knocks. Vito grew up tough on the streets of Little Italy. And you don't want to mess with a guy who's got the street smarts he has.
And from what I hear, his street smarts might be the only smarts he has.
Keep your voice down, JR. Do you have a death wish or something?
This Vito is bad news, King. I don't know why SmackDown would keep a superstar like him on the roster.
Well, I'm not his biggest fan, JR, but you can't deny that Vito knows how to fight.
You're not wrong, King, but there's more to this business than that. I think Vito's just here to hurt someone, and that's not the best thing for the long-term health of your brand superstars.
You gotta watch Vito, JR. I've seen this guy go from being cool as a cucumber to trying to tear someone's head off just like that.
And it seems pretty obvious to me that he's in the latter mindset here tonight, King. We don't see much of Vito on Raw, King, and I want to be clear that I'm not complaining about that.
I wouldn't mind seeing him come over to Monday nights, JR. I think there'd be a locker room full of superstars who'd be happy to adjust his attitude for him.
Lance Cade's a real charmer for sure. But don't let that smooth talk fool you. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that his old granddaddy was a snake oil salesman.
Oh, come on, JR. I'm not going to sit here and let you slander Lance Cade like this. I know you're not one of his biggest fans, but I believe he's a nicer guy than you're letting on.
Well, if you believe that, King, I'm sure he's got some swampland he'd like to sell you in Florida.
Come on, JR, that's just crazy. Everyone knows Cade's from Tennessee. What would he be doing with land in Florida? I see a lot of promise in Lance Cade, JR. He kind of reminds me of a younger version of myself.
What? Besides the fact that you're both arrogant and obnoxious?
I was going to say that we're both stunningly good-looking guys from Tennessee. But if you want to get nasty about it, I won't mention it.
Lance Cade has certainly proven himself as a single star. But you can't forget his tag team prowess either.
I'm surprised you could bring yourself to say something nice about him, JR. Usually you're all over this guy.
I'm not a fan of his methods, King. But you'd have to be blind and ignorant to ignore his ability.
Lance Cade has impressed me from the first day he showed up on Raw and won the tag team titles.
That's quite an accomplishment to be sure. And I don't think that there's any question that his early success went straight to his head. I'm not his biggest fan, King, but I've got to give Lance Cade his due. He's a big, tough kid, a tough competitor, and someone you can't afford to take lightly.
Well, I'm glad you can overlook your personal biases and recognize that, JR. I've always been a big fan of his, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him pick up the win here tonight.
Boy, howdy, this Trevor Murdoch certainly isn't going to win any beauty contest, but that's not why he's here tonight.
And it's a good thing, too. He looks like he fell out of the ugly tree and hit every branch on the way down.
You know, King, I hear he went into a haunted house and came out with an application.
Hey, you're stepping on my territory, JR. Just stick to the play-by-play. Man, talk about ugly. Trevor Murdoch looks like he ran the 100-yard dash in a 90-yard gym.
Well, that rascal's not much to look at, that's for sure. But there's nothing uglier about this man than his personality. I've never seen such a sour puss.
I think that all goes back to his childhood, JR. I hear that when he was a baby, they had to put tinted windows on his incubator.
I'll tell you what, King, it's been a long time since I've seen a superstar with a mean streak as long as the one Trevor Murdoch's got.
He's got to be carrying around a lot of frustration, JR. With a face like that, he couldn't get a date off a calendar.
And I'd think twice about getting into the ring with this man because he's obviously looking to take that frustration out on someone here tonight.
Look at that face on Trevor Murdoch. If I didn't know any better, I'd swear he was on an all-lemon diet.
He's a sourpuss, and no doubt about it. I think the closest thing I've seen him to happy is when he's inflicting pain on someone else. It's hard for me to watch Trevor Murdoch, and I'm not just talking about that ugly mug of his. He's a brutal, violent competitor with not an ounce of compassion in him.
He's like the ugly girl at the prom, JR. Except with her, at least you could say she had a nice personality.
Boy, I don't know what Mickey James' problem is, but this girl is goofy as a pet coon, no doubt about it.
That's a little harsh, JR. I prefer to think of her as feisty.
I know what you'd prefer, King, but the simple fact of the matter is that this young woman is several sandwiches short of a picnic.
So she's watching her diet. What's so bad about that, JR? Man, Mickey James is such a cutie. I wonder what it'd take to get her to come home with me.
I don't think it would be too hard, King. I've heard she's followed lots of people home, and most of them wound up filing restraining orders against her.
Watch what you say, JR. I won't stand here and let you talk about the woman I love like that.
There's no doubt that Mickey James is an outstanding competitor, but she's got a head full of bad wiring or something.
Yeah, but I can overlook that from someone as cute as her. Do you think if I told her she had a beautiful body, she'd hold it against me?
You know, she's so crazy, that line just might work, King.
Everyone says that Mickey James is supposed to be nuts. But tell me, JR, how could someone that crazy win the women's title?
Well, King, I'm no doctor, but as far as I can tell, Mickey James is a complete psycho. Mickey James has helped the women's championship. There's no doubting her ability.
but from where I sit, she is crazier than a pet coon.
Oh, she's crazy, all right, JR. Crazy like the fox that she is.
You know, King, I'm not sure that Candace is all there most of the time. She seems a little, well, spacey to me.
That makes sense, JR. I think her ring attire might have been made on the moon, because her body is out of this world.
You know, just when I think you can't embarrass me any further, you somehow find a way.
Oh, come on, JR. You know you love it. And I know I love watching Candace in action. Candace is one of my favorite WWE divas, JR. I loved her centerfold. It left absolutely nothing to the imagination.
I guess that's lucky for you then, King, because after hearing some of the lines you've used on the divas over the years, I'm not sure imagination is your strong suit.
Ouch. You know, JR, if I wasn't watching Candace right now, that might have put me in a bad mood.
No one's ever going to confuse Candace with a Mac tactician, but there's more to sports entertainment than knowing 100 different holes.
Yeah, but if Candace wanted to learn a few, I'd be more than happy to show her.
My, what a generous offer, King. And to think, some people say you're not a gentleman.
I don't see why Candace agreed to this match, JR. She should join us on commentary. She could sit on my lap, and we could talk about the first thing that pops up.
Folks, I've got to apologize for the King. I don't know what's gotten into him, but I bet it came in a little blue pill. I certainly question some of Candace's techniques from time to time, but there's no denying that she's got a fierce competitive spirit and some serious athletic ability.
Not to mention an incredible pair of legs. I wonder what time they open.
King, is it just me, or has Daivari been a royal pain in the backside ever since he showed up here in the WWE?
Careful, JR. As royalty, I take exception to that remark. But I have to agree with you. Daivari's done a great job of making people miserable since he arrived.
Well, at least he's on SmackDown now, and this is one of the few times we'll have to put up with it.
Yeah, and here's hoping he gets sent back to Friday nights with a few bruises, courtesy of Raw. Daivari's one of those people who blames everyone else for his problems, and I can't stand that.
You'd think that eventually he'd realize that if everyone gives him a hard time everywhere he goes, that maybe, just maybe, there's something about him that makes them act that way.
I think you're giving Daivari more credit than he deserves, JR. I think he'd rather complain about things rather than try to do anything about them.
Gee, do you think this jerk Daivari will finally be happy if he wins this match?
I doubt it, JR. If Daivari were happy, he wouldn't have anything to complain about. And that would just make him miserable again.
Well, King, it's not often that I say this, but I can't find a single flaw in your logic.
Daivari thinks that everyone hates him because he's Arab American. Nothing could be further from the truth. Everyone hates him because he's a jerk.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, he's got someone else doing his dirty work for him. I'm amazed he's even competing in this match. Boy, I tell you, King, this Daivari makes me sick. I practically threw a barbecue cookout when he left Raw. I was hoping I'd never have to set foot in the same arena with him again.
I know we don't agree on much, JR, but I'm with you on this one. The only good thing about seeing Daivari compete is knowing that he might get beaten and humiliated in front of the whole world.
Boy, you talk about awesome. I don't think I could ever get used to the sheer size, the mass of the great Khali.
This guy's a monster, JR. There's not a single superstar on the roster that he doesn't look down at.
In more ways than one. From what I can tell, the great Khali doesn't consider anyone to be in his league.
He might be right, JR. Most WWE superstars are only human. And I'm not sure you can say that about the great Khali. Look at the size of the great Khali, JR. Where do you find someone like that?
The great Khali's from India, King, but I wouldn't expect to find another human being like him walking the face of this earth.
Let's hope not, JR. One of these guys is already too much.
The word monster gets thrown around a little too freely in this business, but it's an apt description for the great Khali. 7'3", 420 pounds.
Yeah, and how great would it be to have someone the size of the great Khali on Raw, JR?
No, thank you. One of these days, the great Khali is going on a rampage. And quite frankly, I don't think there's anyone on SmackDown who could stop him if he did.
Man, JR, I've been watching the great Khali since he made his entrance, and I still can't get over the size of this guy.
That makes 2 of us, King, and I'm sure we're all familiar with the old expression, size isn't everything, but when you have as much of it as this monster, I don't know what else could possibly matter. King, if you had to get in the ring against the great Khali, first of all, I'd say boomer sooner and good luck, but what would be your strategy?
Well, first I'd make sure my insurance was paid up. Then I'd come to the ring in my running shoes and hope for a quick countout.
Man, would you look at the size and the speed of Umaga? I've never seen a superstar that big move so quickly.
No kidding. He really is a Samoan bulldozer.
Yeah, that's what they call him, and damned if I could find a better description. You don't want to get on this man's bad side.
You're assuming that he's got another side, JR. I'm not going to take any chances. I'm just going to stay out of his way. Man, I don't mind telling you, JR. This Umaga scares the heck out of me.
He's a savage. He's primal, a carnivore, like some kind of wild animal.
Yeah, and if he wasn't competing in the WWE, they'd probably have him locked up in a cage and charge admission just to see him.
It doesn't matter who Umaga's in the ring against or how I feel about them personally. I pity them.
I know what you mean, JR. I don't even know if Umaga understands the whole concept of winning a match. I think he just hits his opponent until they don't get up anymore.
And I don't care how tough you are, after going a few rounds with a Samoan bulldozer, not getting up must start to seem like a pretty good idea.
Man, look at the size of Umaga. What do you feed a guy to get him that big, JR?
I don't even want to guess, King, because it looks to me like Umaga's got a hungry eye on his opponent. They call him the Samoan bulldozer, and you don't get closer to the truth than that.
No kidding. He's just about as big and almost as strong. And the only difference is, you can turn a bulldozer off if something goes wrong.
Finley hails from the Irish Isles, and I got to think that when they coined the term Fighting Irish, they had this lad in mind.
You might be right. I've never seen a guy who likes to fight as much as Finley.
And that's probably because he's damn good at it. He spent his whole life fighting, and every time he gets into that ring, he puts on a clinic.
Yeah, and most of his opponents wind up having to go to the clinic afterward. I wonder if we're going to see Finley hit his opponent with that, what do you call that thing? That club he carries around?
You mean his shillelagh?
Gesundheit. Next time you got to sneeze, cover your mouth, JR.
Finley's had a long and distinguished career in this business, and I swear he can still go better than superstars half his age.
He's taking care of himself, that's for sure. He looks pretty fit, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I would, King. I'd say he looks very fit indeed.
I love watching Finley in action, JR. He loves to fight, and it shows.
Boy, if that isn't the truth, I think he'd do nothing but if he had his way. It looks as if Finley may have left his leprechaun at home tonight, and I, for one, am happy about that.
Come on, JR. What have you got against leprechauns? You know, little people are people too.